that was probably an overstatement of my involvement in it, but I'm certainly the public face of it, so we'll go with that. When Matt asked me to do this, he said that Jeff Shearslick came and it was a big hit. I just want to make sure no one's expecting that level of entertainment. I've followed Jeff when he talks about his project, and it's kind of the thing that brings the room down a notch so that we can end the night, but I'll do my best. So. We start with this video, which for anyone in marketing is a blatant violation because we stole it off the internet. But it tells a story, and we show it because when we started this project, obviously you have a chance to do something with 7 acres on the top of the falls in downtown. You don't get that opportunity very often. And so when we took a step back and thought about it, it wasn't just about building cool buildings. It's got to be something that's about the experience. So we looked at places around the country that have that, and this is a marketing video from the Dairy Block. You go to all over the country, they've got cool places where these things happen. They're places that have a few million more people than us, so that complicates it a little bit from a sales pitch to your retail folks. But the thing that this captures is an environment that evolves morning, noon, and night. It evolves 12 months out of the year. It's something that you could go out for a bike ride and come in and enjoy time with friends. You could come down from your office and sit and have a business meeting, and it needs to do all those things because that's really the atmosphere that this spot creates. It's what downtown is really. It's the atmosphere that already exists here from a lot of perspectives. So we just really needed to lean into that in this development. But the other thing is, when you look at this, so this is the view. If you were to go about 75 feet above the falls and look back, that's what's there. So when you're on that bridge looking back at the falls, this is going to be your backdrop. And so that was the other thing. Obviously we had to make a project that made financial sense, but it also, 100 years from now, we wanted people to look at it and say, yeah, they got this right. And so we leaned into kind of an industrial sort of feel with the punched windows and the brick. What you see there on the right side is our Canopy Hotel. The convention center's out in front of it, and then we've got our office building. Beyond that, we have the residential and the retail components. And this bottom picture doesn't show up that well, but you guys know what downtown Sioux Falls looks like, but I like to show this because when Chris, our CEO, and I went to Craig and said, hey, we want to do a $200 million project, he had a colorful response. And we broke it down and we said, well, look, you guys looked at Uptown Sioux Falls when it was a salvage yard. Phillips Avenue didn't even cut through it, and you imagined what it is today, which is awesome. Now, and then we walked it through and we said, okay, if we got a TIF for a parking ramp, would you build it? If we built apartments, would you build it? Yeah. If we can lease an office building, would you build it? Yeah, okay. A $78 million hotel was a bit of a stretch, but after a couple weeks of sales pitch on that, he was bought in on that one too. And so it all started to just make sense. I don't know why you'd do anything else. It's pretty incredible. Sorry, I'm really bad at microphones. It's pretty incredible when you look at downtown Sioux Falls and what we have here and the atmosphere that's been created in comparison to towns our size. You bring people from out of town and they're like, how many people live here? And there's just so much more that it offers than the average community this size. And so this is just a detail, and it actually needs to be updated, but we've added 5 or 6 different pretty cool things since we put this together. But when we brought Canopy, I'm going to sidetrack a story here. So Canopy is Hilton's upper upscale lifestyle brand. And the only reason that we went after Canopy is because Chris went to Reykjavik, Iceland and stayed in a Canopy. And he came back and he goes, we need a Canopy. I looked it up. There was 27 of them in the world. And I said, Chris, this is a stretch. And I'm kind of the realist in our group. And I said, I don't think we can do it. He said, you have to try. So we set about to figure it out. And we got our Hilton rep out, who had told us no at first, but then she said, okay, I'll call Gary, the CEO of Canopy, and I'll pull a favor and get him here. You guys are gonna have to hit it out of the park. So he says, okay, Tuesday, March 27th, I'll be there. I wanna see the activity in downtown Sioux Falls. Like, fantastic. So we had a few friends in the business community that we said, hey, there's these 8 places that your employees should really be at on Tuesday, March 27th. And if you send us a receipt, we'll cut a check. And, but the odds were on our side because it also, instead of a blizzard, was the first 70-degree day of the year. So everybody was out in shorts and t-shirts. And so it was incredible, just the atmosphere in downtown. And we did spend almost $30,000 that night on people going out and enjoying the town. So, and I did ultimately tell the Canopy people we did that after he fell in love with Sioux Falls. So it's full disclosure now. We're walking down Phillips and he goes, hey, you don't have a Starbucks. And all of us start justifying all the Starbucks that are all over town. And he stopped us and he goes, no, I don't want a Starbucks on Main Street. You've got all these small, cool local shops, and you don't have any vacancy. Like, this community supports its downtown. This is a Canopy town. And at the time, they wanted to be in the top 50 communities in the world, and we got awarded a franchise here. Today, I think there's about 80 of them in the world, and so it's pretty cool that they're invested in coming here. I'll try to speed it up so we can get to questions, but 4th Street, at the bottom of this page is Phillips Avenue. You come off on 4th Street. We really want to encourage people to use a parking ramp, which in South Dakota is a little tricky, but we've made it really easy. And so this street is even narrower than Phillips. When you pull in here, you're going to be driving slow because we want people to feel comfortable walking back and forth. At times, we're even going to close down that street and have events. And so really ties into the pedestrian atmosphere that exists in our downtown. There's over 900 parking stalls there. And then we've wrapped it with residential and retail. It's connected with a skywalk to get over to the restaurants in the ground floor of the office building. We also have a restaurant in the hotel. So those concepts, we've announced the 3 concepts in the office building. They're Smack Shack, which if you go up to the city is a phenomenal seafood concept. We've got the Burger Dive, which is just a really cool, approachable burger concept. And then there's a tequila bar that they haven't put the brand to, but it's that same group putting the operation together. And then our restaurant in the hotel is a high-end Italian concept. It's put together by the group that did Manny's Steakhouse up there. Really a different and unique set of experiences from a culinary perspective, and then you can get over to the hotel there. These are some of the pictures that kind of capture we're trying to create an experience. You got the low catenary lights and fire features and all the stuff that the lawyer accountant in me just looks at the budget, but I let the design people run. So it's gonna be cool. It's gonna be a great experience. And really tie into that. And when you look at everything else happening and what's happening on the east side of the river, there's just going to be a ton of activity up here. Obviously, the Jacobson Ice Plaza, it really does just add to that 12 months out of the year. Uptown Sioux Falls is going to have something going on. And so we'll get to tie into that from a street light perspective with the Christmas lights. And our hope would be, rather than a line all the way up to 14th Street of cars, everybody just come, park at the ramp, go get your coffee or your dinner, and you can walk through here, go ice skating and do all that. I mean, that's what we want to create with that winter activity. You can see the skywalk going across there. That office building, we do have 4 floors leased, and in the next 2 weeks we'll have 2 more. And so we're excited to have that mostly put to bed here. Some quick details: the convention center, the square feet in that is can be kind of deceptive, but to put it into context, you could put 800 people in rows in our ballroom, 550 on round tables. So kind of not trying to compete with the Premier Center. It's kind of that middle event that doesn't have a place in downtown. So Canopy, one of the cool things that Chris loved about Canopy is they're all different, and they tie to the community, they tell their own story. So when you go to a Canopy, it's going to be different than the one in Minneapolis, than the one in Dallas, and the one in Phoenix, Reykjavik. And so it's our own special thing that has really been tailored and designed to tell the story of the Steel District. The office tower, I'll take one quick segue here because I think this is really cool. This will be the first building of its kind in the United States. It's made with ultra high performance concrete. We just got the panels tested down in Lincoln to verify that we're green lit to do it, but they build buildings this way in Dubai all the time. They use it in bridges here in the US, but Gage Brothers have been working for some time to get this perfected in a way that is cost effective. And so this will be the first of its kind, but the thing that means for our tenants is completely clear span. When you walk into your floor, once you're out of the elevators and the stair towers, you walk out into your floor, there's not a column anywhere unless you decide you want to put one up because it looks cool. And so you get a blank slate to work from, and that creates an opportunity when you look at the modern open office to do some pretty unique and cool things. We've got some pictures here from what they've done with the burger dive up in the cities. The tequila bar, this will have more of that nightlife concept as the night goes on and really turn into more of a bar as the evening goes on. And then the Smack Shack. This has been certainly that group's most popular concept, the fresh seafood, the raw bar, lobster tanks. And so I'm pretty excited to have those guys here. And that is right, there's an 8-foot sidewalk between where the falls start cascading over the rocks and the restaurant. It's a 2-story restaurant. Second, the office will have a little coffee shop, all the things you need to have in an office, a fitness center and meeting rooms, all those sort of things, in order to make it, the first-class facility, really the best office space, in my totally biased opinion, in town. These are some, the views looking over, 360 degrees here to see out into our community are just phenomenal, that you're going to have. We're really excited about what this is and will be. We do have as many as 20 condos that we're currently selling. We've got 2 of them sold and going out to open market on those here in the next few weeks. So, and the condos are on the 6th level, and then there's 5 of them over Kiwanis Park that sits over the river there, so 2-story brownstones right off the street. There's our schedule. We're currently building it. You got, I think, over 1,000 geopiers spun into the ground right now, and we got Sukup out there cutting foundations, and so by the end of this year, you'll see precast going vertical throughout that site. And by the fall of 23 is our current goal to have the hotel open. It might slip into as late as the spring of 24 from where we sit today. I was supposed to leave plenty of time for questions, so.
All right, who has a question for Jake? You go.
Well, sir, one of your bullet points was like 2nd floor coffee shop, 3rd floor restaurant. Like that's a different concept in Sioux Falls. Do you picture that being used primarily by tenants, or do you really think the public will like, yep, this is normal. I will park in the ramp. I will get over there. I will go up to the 3rd floor to go to that restaurant.
So I'll have to look at that. There isn't a restaurant on a 3rd floor. The 1st floor is restaurants, and then the Smack Shack is a 2-story restaurant within itself. The coffee shop is right on the skywalk, so I would view it more like a little kiosk. There will be a cooler with like salads and sandwiches that our office tenants can grab something, but it's really just get your quick cup of coffee. It's more of an amenity than something we need to make boatloads of money.
Do you have a floor plan for condos?
Yes, we do have multiple, but I don't have it on the PowerPoint. I'd have to send that to you.
How much are they selling?
The two that we have under contract right now are at $450 a square foot.
Wow.
So I've heard from you guys and from Jeff, like for those demand for like high-end condos is like super high. So do you see that become kind of competitive bidding process, or how do those get priced?
So we set that through basically an open bidding process to get there. And those are in some people's opinion, the two best. In my opinion, the best one is still available on the west side, looking over the park. You got the cathedral, Levitt right outside there. I think that's really going to be a great spot. But I would say that that's probably the ceiling as to what we're going to see. I mean, because that's for a shell. That's just, sheetrocked walls on either side of your unit. So probably spend another $250 a square foot from there.
That's one very nice condo. Other questions?
Jeff Scherschlich, but nobody can beat Jeff Scherschlich. Okay, Jake.
I agree.
I just have a question. You talked a little bit about events in that space. And I'm not teeing you up. I'm genuinely curious. What is your mindset or vision for that programming?
Yeah, so obviously we've already got over $120 million invested in Uptown Sioux Falls. So having coordinated events that tie into what you guys are doing at DTSF, that tie into what the Levitt's doing, and really pull that all together where we can, keep that activity high and have things that tie into that is going to be critical for us. So there's going to be people whose job it is to coordinate that with those groups and plan it so that we're making sure that it's just part of a seamless story in downtown.
Other questions?
Sorry, man, making you run.
Yeah,
Just yell, okay. So, I live downtown, right? And one of my biggest issues, frankly, there are two issues. One is that I get this funky smell from the Smithfield thing. And I tell you, when that happens, I don't go out. So that's one problem. Second issue is that the train just keeps going, and then the horn is so loud.
Yeah.
So actually, I'm moving out of downtown because of those two issues.
Yep.
So, any comments on that?
I wish that you had two problems that were much easier to solve. I mean, it's definitely an issue. The smell, if $100 million was I would guess that's the starting point to remove the investment Smithfield has made in that location. And so that's complicated and something I think will be, we're going to have to deal with it for a while. The trains, the community, I know Jeff probably talked about this, that quiet zone or whistle-free zone is something I know we'll get it done. It's a lot of work. You got to work with various state and federal agencies to get it done. That said, there'll still be train whistles in downtown. There's not much we can do about the bridge that goes over the river there, unless we were going to invest in doing like some sort of an elevated train concept that got it out of any sort of conflict with people. And so it's a unique problem. We've got to certainly invest in quality construction to the best extent we can, but at some point then it becomes part of it that we just got to figure out how to. Some people get accustomed to it, others it's not. Our CEO, Chris, he's currently living at Cascade. We get emails about it every day. And I'm like, Chris, I can't stop the trains, so I don't know what to do. So it is something. There's ongoing conversations about it, but it's not a quick fix.
awesome, by the way. The Manny's Steakhouse Minneapolis home run. Why did you choose a Minneapolis brand group instead of local Sioux Falls restaurants?
So in the hotel, there are strict requirements when you're dealing with brands. When you get into that level, that your restaurant provider, your consultant, has to meet certain what they set as a standard. And so groups that handle that level of restaurant and do that level of consulting, we weren't successful in getting anyone local interested / approved for that. On the office building, it sort of came about as a result of some ongoing partnership discussions. That group was trying to get here to do business in South Dakota, and they have some really cool concepts, and we wanted to keep a degree of control over it. So it was a willingness to give us a certain level of control and enter into that partnership, because the last thing that this development needs is restaurants that don't live up to the expectation. And so it's part of a bigger picture of we need that activity in order for the whole thing to be successful. So there may be some ongoing investment from us as a company to make sure that that gets there, knowing it'll get there long term.
Thanks so much for coming in. You mentioned on the convention center side that you're going to have space for 800 people in rows or 550 people in banquets in a single space. Are you planning on having additional breakout space, smaller meeting rooms as well?
Yeah, so we've got one junior ballroom and another kind of really small ballroom, and then all of that can be broken up, and we do have some that are just dedicated meeting / breakout rooms. So in total, you could have as many as 10 breakout rooms in the facility.
And you might have already said, the hotel is running that convention center?
Yes.
Jake, I've got a more general question. How do you guys think about total construction value in the city? I mean, obviously all the apartments right now are full, but it's also we've got tons under construction, and do you guys worry about overbuilding the market, or how do you guys think about that?
It's a constant conversation, and developers are known for doing that. We kind of eat until we're full, and then we stop. Craig says it a little more colorfully than that. But I mean, now we're trying to be a little more intentional about it. But I have to tell you, with what's happening in Sioux Falls, if tomorrow 3,000 units just dropped out of the sky and landed in Sioux Falls, I mean, I wouldn't build. I'm going to break ground on another almost 2,000 in the first 6 months of next year, is what our current plan is. I probably wouldn't do that many, but I'm not going to stop building apartments, because we're today in our portfolio, if you said, hey, I really need an apartment by the end of the month, and I haven't looked at the number in a week or two, but if I had 20 that I could rent you by the end of November, I'd be kind of surprised. And I mean, think about what your choices are if you only have 20. And we've got, I want to say 5,700 units in Sioux Falls. So, I mean, with that sort of availability, we know that we need to keep going. Otherwise, some of the, how many people have employees who are, hey, I can't find a job, or I can't find a house. I mean, we need to keep going. Otherwise, some of these places are going to pull back on their investment in our community.
What kind of growth rate do you put into your formula to make sure that this is going to, manifest itself into what your expectations are?
So, I mean, it's a broad range. Obviously, we're not anticipating 5,200 a year as we saw last year, but pretty consistently we're putting at least 2,500 new people into our community a year, and so we at least model it off of that. We know that there's the potential and likelihood that for a few years here we'll see a little bit greater numbers, and as long as we don't have any major pullback from employers in our community, our hope is we don't see a significant reduction in that population for any reason. I mean, if you had 4 employers shut shop, that's certainly something we talk about, but you can only do so much to plan for it.
On the commercial side, do you see that people are moving within the Sioux Falls area, or are you attracting out of state?
It's a little bit of both. Our two largest tenants, one of them is us. Obviously, we're moving because we've outgrown our space. The other one is relocating from the Twin Cities and taking 2 floors. And so, we're seeing that. We've got another group that is actually relocating from the Twin Cities as well that's looking at that. I think there's a lot of people who have an interest in moving their businesses here. But there's also a lot of really successful local companies that are growing and looking for the opportunity to have that next space. All right, I went quiet, Matt.
Shout it out.
All right, I got 2 questions. One, when people talk to you about perhaps why is development a good thing, or when people come to you and they say, I hope Sioux Falls doesn't get too big, what do you say to them? And then second question, what's your favorite part about this specific development?
Okay. Well, when people come to me and we bring up questions about getting too big, and certainly there's things that go with that. Obviously, you get some of the crime concerns, and you get some of those things as your community grows. I think if we're intentional about it, we can fight a lot of that, and we have a very interactive community that I think will reach out and work together. Most of our competitors are pretty friendly with one another, with very rare exceptions. And so we reach across to make good things happen and invest in the community. But it's not that different than a business. If you're not the likelihood that you're going to stay static is pretty low. You're either going to grow or you're going to shrink. And when I look at what we have here, if we want to keep it going, we want to keep the positive, the cultural opportunities, the educational opportunity, all the different things that are positive for why people want to be here at different stages of their life. If we're not investing in it and then growing it and staying ahead of it, it's not 20 years from now, it won't be what it is today. And then my favorite part of this development is really just, it's the experience. We're surrounded on 3 sides by park, and we're creating a place where people can live, work, and play. And really, if we can get a couple of other things to come together, I don't even know if you'd have to leave but a few times a year. Now you should. There's a lot of great things to experience in Sioux Falls. Don't go crazy. But, you look at what's happening within 6 blocks of that. With what Jeff's doing and the awesome experiences there, what's going on in Uptown, and then you get into Phillips Avenue. The only thing we're missing, and it hasn't come up yet today, is where's the grocery store in downtown? That's the only thing that really kind of creates that little bit of a void of what you need to really check the box. I think this is where you close it out.
Okay, I'm going to ask one more question, and we'll ask the last question. Second to last question is, outside of Sioux Steel, you guys have a ton going on in the city. What are the other kind of big projects you're excited about that you guys are behind?
Yeah, we're a really diverse company, and I'd say that's an important question. And so we've got the cool stuff downtown. We were awarded the First Avenue project in partnership with Green Acres right behind the federal courthouse. That'll be a cool mixed-use project there. But we were also just awarded by South Dakota Housing for applications in partnership with nonprofits, 3 of those here in Sioux Falls. And that's delivering housing to people who otherwise don't have quality housing. Those are important projects for us because, we talk about this and how short we are on housing and the number of people who are paying 45% of their income for housing or more. and what that means for them and their kids and their families. Those are really important projects to me personally as we're investing in those. And it's 100 units. Like it's a drop in the bucket of the actual problem, but some of those people will be paying as little as $445 a month, and that includes their utilities. And these are people who they're going to be broke after paying the $445 a month. So a lot of them, and so it gives that opportunity to create stability for families in our community. And then we're doing a lot of really cool apartment projects around town that invest in from that $445 up to $2,500 a month. Really, anything that you see as what you desire from an apartment, we're doing it. And then Empire Place, obviously, it was cool to get Chick-fil-A open. That was people are really into their fried chicken in this town. Fried chicken and car washes. So.
So normally the last question is, what can we as the 1 Million Cups community do to help you? I want to change a little bit, like in terms of the Sioux Steel Project, like what types of tenants should be reaching out to you? Like who is a good fit for the project? Who is like the person that like, or the company or the restaurant that like should be there, that should be reaching out to you guys?
I mean, I think it's, when you're talking about the retail, it's people who want to create an experience, that experience-driven factor. We want some unique things. We have some small boutique type spaces within the development. From an office perspective, we can do anything from probably, if you go much smaller than 2,500 square feet, it's going to get pretty inefficient just in the size of the shape of the building, but up to almost 20,000 square feet on a floor. So there's a lot of opportunity there for people who are growing and want to be a part of it. We want people who, kind of engage the development in the community. They're going to, the businesses that get out and experience what we're offering. I mean, if that's not it, you're not going to want to pay the rents. If it's not a draw to your employees, I can tell you it's going to be too expensive, because if you're just looking for a place for people to roll up to a cubicle.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jake. It's good to get around and take a call.